So I wanted to take a moment to just discuss music. Music is a really important part of my brand. I make a lot of music. And for me, my musical journey started, I would say, like just riding around with my pops. And he was always playing whatever. You know, that was like my original entry point into music is my pops. He never shied away from playing music that other people wouldn't play around kids. It was just like, nah, he gonna listen to that. Shit, I got these headphones on. I don't think he was trying to prove any kind of like special point by doing it. It's just, I think he saw the genius in saying, all right, this is art. I have been personally recording music since 2002, 2003. I used to go to my friend's house in Laurelton. We used to get on the Q84, go to Laurelton and record in his basement. My girlfriend at the time, I think she wanted to break up with me because I was going to make music every day. After school, I wasn't hanging out with her. I was going to make music, and my inspiration for making music was impressing myself. Rap music in the hip hop space is so special. It's poetry. So being able to put together that type of like rhythmic cadence on top of a beat, saying something clever, mixing it all together, and then it sounding good was a game. You know, so like instead of playing video games, I wanted to make music. And that to me had a much more significant return on investment. And that's what I was about. Shit, that might be a little breakthrough. I think one of the biggest things for me with music has always been the return on investment. If you spend the right amount of time putting together music will give you something that lasts forever. I dropped my first project in 2006. All in all, I have 10 music projects. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I spent time in my past so focused on making music to be able to spend time in the present listening to it. I've always wanted to make things that will literally continue to excite me when I experience them forever. Other people get to live to the song too. And that's the thing. When you make a song, there's what the song meant to you, but then there's what the song meant to them. And so watching other people synthesize your intent is magical. I'm addicted to that feeling. So I don't think I'll ever stop making music. For as long as my voice works and I can find somewhere to hit record, I'm gonna make music. I've always been a self-starter. I can't wait for other people to get shit done. You always get disappointed. So from jump, I found a way to, build a little studio and make it happen. And at first I didn't have a real studio. I had a microphone, I had a laptop, and I had time for trial and error. You write a song and you record it, and you write a song and you record it, and you write a song and you record it. And a lot of those first songs, the levels weren't right. You can just hear the rawness, the immaturity in the approach, but you can still hear the poetry and the art. My first project was called The Black Verses. My first personal project, music project, was called The Black Verses. And I dropped that when I was in college. And why did I call it The Black Verses? Well, my name at the time was Sirius Black. So The Black Verses just made sense. And I don't know, it felt spiritual. I just wrote songs that I thought were theme songs for my life. Like there was this song I did called Hello Ground. Somebody catch me, I'm falling. Hello Ground, the sound of my head cracking on C. It had a very like Tupac feel to it, now that I think about it. With your first project really speaks to like the entirety of your life prior to. I didn't release another project until 2009, and that was called Free Lunch. And the Free Lunch mixtape, I had changed my name to S Busy because people just kept calling me Busy in school. There was a lot to do and I was always doing it, so it was like, yo, that's Busy. That's S Busy, SB. So I was busy. So I went from Sirius Black on the first tape in 2006 to rapper Busy on the second tape in 2009. And Free Lunch was about this quote from economics class, as in, they say, there's no such thing as a free lunch, which is true. It's sort of parallel to the idea that, the road to hell is paved with good intentions is sort of synchronous, whatever, let's run with it, with the idea of there not being a free lunch. And so I wanted to provide food. I wanted to provide lyrical sustenance for anybody who listened. And to me, it's, I think, one of my greatest tapes. The Free Lunch tape is one of my greatest tapes. There just was a lot of experimenting. I was in a comfortable space. So after I left Baruch, Damn, I skipped the whole tape. I'm bugging. I got so much music. I literally skipped the whole tape. So I left the original college that I was in, and I went to school for audio engineering. And while I was in school for audio engineering, I did a whole tape called Troubleshot, which I never dropped. I thought Troubleshot was such a genius title because, you know, I thought so many things were broken around me. I was broken. The neighborhood was broken. My friends were broken, and broken in the sense that we were all in between our A and our B. So when you're in between your A and your B, or you're shedding like your old skin, you feel broken, but that's because you're evolving. And so Troubleshot was like the lyrical representation of me trying shit en route to becoming my better self. This is how I was thinking then. And so that would be like 2007. So yeah, so there was a tape in 2006 called The Black Verses. And then there was a tape in 2007 called Troubleshot, which I never released. And then 2009, at this point, I done been recording music forever. I done worked in a lot of people's studios. I had hundreds of hours of studio, maybe thousands of hours of studio time in. I had recorded and mixed a lot of big records. I had started getting record placements for other people, not for my own music. And I felt comfortable in music, but then everything slowed down. When you're working in the music business, like a lot of people will tell you, or just I guess entertainment in general, it's feast or famine. So you go from a space where you're making just a ton of money, completely active, to nothing. People go on tour, they're not in the studio, they're not recording, nothing. And a friend of mine had asked me if I wanted a job at Nike Town. And I was like, no. But then I went. And this was after a few other jobs I had. I was running my own studio out of my house. And really, I felt like I was making enough money at home. I probably wasn't, out of my home studio. But I almost went and just took that job to keep my parents cool. Because they couldn't see what I was doing, in the sense that I knew I was building a brand. I knew I was building a business. And I knew music was it. But at the same time, outside looking in, it could have looked like I was just stagnant. What's interesting is that the girl I was with, who's my wife now, she broke up with me in that time. And it was the greatest and worst thing that could happen to you, because it's like everybody around you is just confirming that they don't see it. And so you got to make a choice in that moment as to whether or not it is actually real, outside of people who aren't you being able to recognize it. And if you can get through that part of your life, then you can get through anything. And I did. And I released my greatest piece, well, not my greatest piece of music, but something that I think is extremely identifiable. So I was working at Nike Town, hating it, loving it, climbing the ladder, and I released Free Lunch. And people still bring up that tape. People who know, right? I mean, it played heavy on college radio stations back when college radio stations were a thing, and I sent it to everybody. This is back when This is back when CDs were still a thing. So I had like the physical. Damn, I might have one. Thought I knew where it was. I didn't. But yeah, Free Lunch was just great. Is this recording? Each thing you make is like a relationship. Damn. We're literally having a breakthrough. I'm discovering things that I didn't realize. Okay, so every piece of music I've made is like a relationship I've had. Damn, I've had a lot of relationships. Because it takes so much time to write the songs. And then for me, I was recording every song. So every song I've done, I recorded myself. Every lyric I've obviously recited, I wrote. And then every song was not just written and recorded by me, but also mixed by me. So my entire musical career has been a very like solo journey. And I think that plays into how I feel about partnering with people, where like I don't have to wait for nobody. Like, I'm gonna get shit done. I'm gonna get this done. I'm not waiting for somebody. I don't need anybody else to shoot it. I don't need anybody else to edit it, color, all that other stuff. Rather, I'm sorry, I do need these people. I need everybody that I have. But I don't have to wait. And so it's like, get with it or kind of get to the side, because I'm moving. What's that, Ludacris? Move, bitch. My favorite song off of Free Lunch is probably Live Room. I feel like I killed the second verse of the song. Okay. And then there was Moon on Fire. I would say Moon on Fire might be the blueprint for me. You know? Well, maybe not the blueprint, whatever. I don't know. But Moon on Fire was it was nearly flawless. It's probably like one song that I would take off of there, maybe two. So the funny thing with Moon on Fire is that I lied about Moon on Fire. I was having a conversation with somebody. They were talking about Free Lunch mixtape. So at this point, the Free Lunch mixtape is maybe 18 months old. You know, it's an eternity. But they were talking about how dope it was, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm working on another project. And in that moment, I had no songs. I wasn't working on another project, and this title came to me. I just lied. Literally in that moment, I lied and said, yeah, I'm working on a project. It's called Moon on Fire. I literally made a whole mixtape just so that I wouldn't be a liar, because that's how you move when you don't have to wait. And fuck, why do I keep skipping mixtapes? I'm bugging. Wow. So, all right, I'm not doing that on purpose. So 2009 was Free Lunch. 2010 was Thin Air. Thin Air was a special time in my life. I dropped Thin Air and I thought I was about to be famous. I had this great campaign going on Facebook where I counted down like the last 30 days to the tape dropping, and everybody was anticipating it, and a lot of people downloaded it. And this is back when you had to download somebody's tape and then drag and drop it onto your device that you listen to music on. It wasn't a streaming age, so no one streamed it. They had to download it and put that investment of time into listening to your music. And I think I had like Mediafire or something crazy like that. But a lot of people, thousands of people downloaded this tape, and there was such a heavy buzz. And I really thought I was about to have a career in music. I shot a video for Poem and Rugby Flow, which is one of my favorite songs off of Thin Air, Poem and Rugby Flow.
Busy. I feel like real light, air thin, hairpin, trigger blast, hole in the wall. Then I peer in, open up the door, throw my fear in, lock it, don't go in, invest, make profits, standing on the shoulders of a giant. So I make really big heat like Chris Bosh's. My gosh, it's that kid they call Busy Amal. Never met him cause his failures kept him busy before. Now it's different, now they all witness, but never tell, even if themselves don't work out, it's all fitness. Got a gift, but damn it ain't all Christmas still. Just a boy still gives, saying on my wish list. Things might have changed though, no Matchbox, need Range Rover, dark skinned angel with white halo. Something about that contrast that get me, won't spin heavy.
All of this music will be on SoundCloud, which is crazy. I think for a long time I avoided having all of this music on SoundCloud because as a creative, you hate your old stuff. You don't hate it, you just know that your new stuff is better. That's not it either. It's not that your new stuff is better, you just know that your new stuff is using the latest and greatest shit that you've learned. And so you always want to like have your latest out there because you feel like that's representative of everything that you know in that moment. And so once a year passes and you drop a new tape, you're like, nah, this is the only tape I want people to focus on. Not that the old stuff was whack, but it was the old stuff. Thin Air is special because I was in a super transitioning period in my life. Everybody around me was different relationships happening in my life at that time. With Thin Air, I tried to make every beat. As a matter of fact, I think on Thin Air, I made every beat. So it got to a point where I was progressing, where I was making beats all the time. So I made every single beat on Thin Air. And then I got a friend of mine who was a comedian. He's just crazy funny, and he did these skits. Thin Air 2010 just felt like a thing. I had this great photo shoot at East Side Sound Studios in Lower East Side, which I used to intern at. And I'll do a whole different video about like my intern audio engineering days, which still exists. Not the interning, but the audio engineering. But anyway, there's so much passion in those songs. Like I was hurt. I was in a really hurt place, but I also was in a healing place. And so Thin Air to me is, when I hear it, I think about where I was, who I was, how I was, what I was prior and what I was becoming, the people who were around, the people who weren't around, you know. I was dealing with a breakup at the time, and it greatly influenced the music in the sense that, again, creatives, right? You know what happens, you're with somebody and then then you aren't with them. And when you break up with somebody, as a creative, you start creating in a way that you almost want to prove them wrong, prove them crazy. So you start making some of your greatest stuff because it's just like, damn, you left me while I was making this. Do your thing. It just takes you to a place where you just get really, really focused. And I was focused. And I thought that the world was about to change, and then it didn't. There's so much intensity in the creative process that once you create it, you don't want to do none of the other stuff. Once I finish making the music, I don't feel like marketing it. I feel like I'm supposed to pass that off to somebody else, but there's never been a consistent somebody else on my team for music. I've had a lot of people on my team, but I've never had like consistent music help. I could have always used help, but I'm not waiting, Being self-sufficient becomes its own disease. So maybe I would have been, your favorite rapper somewhere, but I'm happy that music didn't work out then, because I don't know if I would have made the music that I'm making now. And it's more important to me to be creating authentically than it is to be getting paid to do something that maybe isn't representative of who I am and how I really feel. When I think about Thin Air, it's just incredible that I could do what I did and then be done with it. But after Thin Air, I got crazy on Moon on Fire. I got really, really crazy on Moon on Fire. And what's interesting about that is that the person that I separated from prior was coming back into my life. They filled in something that was missing, that I was trying to fill in myself, I would say. And Moon on Fire, I think, has that vibe of, it's a very mature tape. I mean, I wasn't that old when I made it, but I mean, it's mature in the sense that the execution is there. Like the guy rapping, he knows what he wants to say. He knows how he wants to say it. Fuck. Moon on Fire, like if I only had to play one tape for somebody, I might play Moon on Fire before I play my most recent tape. Maybe. Moon on Fire starts off flawlessly from Ready to Work, Ready for Work, Same Left, Bermuda Triangle. Bermuda Triangle is one of the greatest things I've ever done with my life as a song. If you only listen to one song after this, go listen to Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, I never wave, I just walk right by. Look at my feet, try and talk that fly. But you couldn't see my eyes through the glasses, and I like that. Sorta like when she send replies and I'll write back. Leaving suspense and she waiting, contemplating the day when the day and the sunset, so we scramble the mind.
But Moon on Fire helped me to realize something too, that like you can do great things and it won't matter to anybody as much as it matters to you. And that's a lonely place as a creative, where you just create and then you just know like, all right, what's next? That's what happens. You create it and then it's just like, all right, what's next? And that's what happened with Moon on Fire. I made it and then it was like, all right, cool. It happened. All of my hustle and energy went into making an amazing piece of music, but not wanting to run around screaming in everybody's ear that they should listen to it. And so I found this like really comfortable place in my soul where I was just like, you know what? Everything I create is going to be awesome to the people who it touches, and the people who don't, they can't miss what they never had, And I would rather do this. I'd rather have this discourse, like between you and I. This makes me happy. I create for this. I create to be able to have this conversation and walk you through my work, than to have a bunch of people who don't actually appreciate the subtle nuances of everything that I put into it, because I'm a detail-oriented person lyrically. So there's no lines off. So everything I say it on purpose, and I say it because I wanted to trigger something. I like being a clever lyricist. Like a lot of people now, just like they're flowing. It's the pattern per pattern per pattern per pattern, pattern per pattern per pattern per pattern. But then when you go to like say the lyrics to yourself, they don't mean anything. And my wife, who was just a girl I was getting to know at that time, sung on a lot of those songs. So, shout out to her. I think I'm gonna do a separate video for Moon on Fire. Then after that, in 2013, it was the Observation tape. And the Observation tape I made as I was recovering from surgery. So I had almost died. I had fell through a window, and luckily it was low. It was like ground level, but I fell through this big ass glass pane and cut up pretty bad. I'll do a separate video about that. And I couldn't work. I was home for 9 months, which now that I think about it is, 9 months. And I didn't even have all of my fingers. Like, I didn't have my hands. So if you notice, like on these fingers, they kind of just have this natural, and that's because for a while they didn't even open. Like, they weren't sure that this hand was even going to work. You know, so you see this beautiful scar that I have here, and then here, and I just got scars everywhere from the glass. And they had to open up my arm to like reconnect the nerve. I had no use of my hands. I was 26 years old and I couldn't use my hands. Everything had to be done for me. And it's an extremely humbling experience, but it's the greatest thing that could happen to you, because I was going too fast. I was going to crash into something, metaphorically or physically. And the universe said, we need you to slow all the way the fuck down because we need to tell you something. And it told me something. And the observation tape didn't necessarily come from that newfound wisdom. My lifestyle came from that newfound wisdom, but the observation tape came from that time. And being home, and I literally had to use my thumbs. So I was using my thumbs to like type lyrics and hit record and drag the mouse with the faders and shit like that. And I just had time. And so I recorded, and I was heavily influenced by Basquiat at the time. And I just felt like he was an observer of the world. And what he gave back as art was his interpretation of the world around him, the urban landscape. And I just thought, what am I? Like, I'm an observer. You know, this is the observation tape. And so I wanted to paint a picture of my neighborhood, the neighborhoods I grew up in, the neighborhoods I still live in, and what it's like to be like a young black weapon, a soldier, a lover, a poet, a brother, father, friend, nephew, son, source of energy. Just so many things that you have to deal with as a young black man. It just was like, we needed a soundtrack for that. And so the observation tape is damn near revolutionary from a mind state standpoint, but also done in a way that has the medicine in the food. So one of my favorite songs that I've ever done, which is called Soho, it's track number 2 on the observation tape. This is from 2013. One of the greatest songs I ever did. And interestingly, that beat was made by Mac Miller. So I didn't know at the time. I had just come across the instrumental. I think maybe someone sent it to me.
Cause it's not like a song, it's more like an observation. Everything's based on a true story. Yeah. She loved the apartment in Soho. More dreams than she can fit in the closet, but she ain't minded. Always felt grateful for wanted. Back to memory, sharing rooms with her sisters, with boyfriends that tried to kiss her, yelling, "Mister, could you help me to my door?" She was on the 4th floor. In her mind, she called it the penthouse. Wrote it on the letters that often she had to send out. We writing to her brother, they called him hustling X-Pills. Neck chill, wrap up in the scarf. Her grandma made her thinking last time that she seen her, she told her, "I see you later." Irony is killing her, passion from pneumonia. Thinking the scarf would have kept her warm, she tossed her to a corner. The Catman, she called her Billy, after her grandma. Billie Jean Johnson, born and raised Alabama. Looking in the mirror, think maybe she need a fake you, but she don't need a man to just date you or overrate you. Repeat it to herself and she laugh again. Phone ring, text from this dude, what's happening? She like him, but she don't like the life that he live. He be driving them cars, he be hanging with people that had you seen him in the picture, blending in with the stars. You would think he was Mars, but she too Venus to need his penis. She run the shower, some hot shit, throwing music in the back, Jill Scott shit. Live my life like it's golden, golden. Live my life like it's golden, golden. Pour the wine, make the time stand still, and go a place where mine can't.
Immediately wrote Soho. Maybe I didn't write it down because I was starting to not write things down, because I figured out that if you could just stay true to the song, then the song will reward you with stream of consciousness. Because I find that when you have to write something down, it almost kind of like it interrupts what it is that you're actually trying to say, because now you're looking at how you're saying it. This is from a point in time where, like, I could have killed myself and it would have made sense to people. Not that suicide ever makes sense, but I had no hands. You know, I was depressed. I wasn't depressed. Interestingly enough, I wasn't depressed. I didn't feel any kind of way. It was a moment of growth. I realized that I had every reason to feel away. And I was like, why? You know what I'm saying? Like, the feelings wouldn't have done anything for me. The only thing that mattered was the energy. And the energy was like, create. The energy was like, live. You didn't die. You're good. Like, you'll be all right. And so I realized how numb I was to just the bullshit that I think plagues other people. And I think you can hear that like Teflon mind state in a lot of the songs on the Observation tape, but then you could also hear a lot of the vulnerability. And I think I got a lot of like honest moments on the Observation tape that I might have hidden before. But I think when you start to see inside of you, like when you have a moment where you see inside of you, like if you've ever been hurt and you see inside, you see your bone, you realize like you got to see inside of yourself. Because living with your surface self will, you know, would only suffice for so long. I would say the Observation tape is my least celebrated tape in regards to like being contemporary, but only because I made it for me. It didn't matter to me if anybody heard it. A lot of people did, but it wasn't like this. The Observation tape is not what people bring up when I'm conversing with them. It's almost like my volume 1, you know, Jay-Z's volume 1, Streets is Watching. No one talks about Streets is Watching because it wasn't celebrated the way Reasonable Doubt was and then the way volume 2 was, but it exists. Volume 1 exists. And for people who know, they know it's an amazing piece of music. Streets is Watching as a visual movie was just amazing too. And then from there, I definitely skipped 3 projects. Or maybe I skipped 2. So in 2011, the fuck? Like, there's literally so much music, I miss it. In 2011, in between projects, I started this series called 15. And the idea was I was going to drop 15 15-minute mixtapes. And this is 2011. My logic was I was working retail. I was a manager. I was sending people on 15-minute breaks. So I said to myself, damn, wouldn't it be dope if there was a whole like thing of music that literally fit a smoke break? Because that's where the idea comes from. It takes 15 minutes to smoke a cigarette. If I can give people a soundtrack to smoking their cigarette, I mean, straight like mixtape lyrics, those were raw. Those were some raw tapes. And I mean raw in the sense that lyrically, I feel like lyrically they were really impressive. Still are. I listen to them now and I'm just like, damn. There's one song, again, if you like listening to a few Choice, Busy and More tracks, I would say there's this song Gravity on volume 2 from 2011. It's a Drake beat, but as a matter of fact, this is the song on Drake's first like album. He had a song with Jay-Z. I forget the name of the song, but I rapped over that beat, and the first verse on there on Gravity, listen to it.
Hey yo, I feel unfortunate to torture shit kill. Need a coffin quick still, leave a tip with the bill. When you real and you recognize the fake will get petrified. When it starts to bug you, this is lyrically the pesticide. It's best if I start from the top, this new famine. Got them all starved, so they settle for a moon landing. We never been, so we pretend that we out of space. Spinning on this axis, the earth got us out of place. You call it gravity, never bother to measure. Unless you're getting fly, that's when you fall for the pressure. Raised hand, college professor don't understand it, so he responds really your basic quantum mechanics. That's when you start dropping shit. Newton's third law, the earth's force is really all equal. It's opposite.
Skip 2 whole mixtapes. Yeah, there was really no breaks. Let me paint this picture for you. My parents' house is in Southside Jamaica, Queens. My room has been in the basement when we moved there. Once I got into music, I turned my bedroom into a recording studio. So it was not a bedroom. It was a recording studio. And my thing was, I was hosting so many sessions, I wanted people to feel like they were in the studio, not like they were in my room recording music. So I got rid of the bed. I had a futon, and I really never opened it. I just slept on it because it was about the music. It wasn't about comfort. I was just waking up, recording, and then going to work. Probably writing on the train, F train, Q40, E train. I think around that time I had just started drinking too. And it just changes. You know, I think I might have been smoking a bit, though I never really got heavy into smoke. So after the Observation tape in 2013, I eventually went back to work, and I was depressed then, I would say. I didn't want to be where I was in life. I didn't want to work for the company I was working for. I don't know, I didn't feel like I was in the right place, and I was wasting all of my energy on something that didn't actually mean anything. And nothing is worse than wasting your time, because you can't get that back. I wasn't motivated to make music. It wasn't really easy to make music in the space I was. And I had did one tape. I had did volume 3 of the 15 series. And even with that, I didn't feel like it's good. But it didn't feel like, all right, yeah, this is it. Actually, I did make a few songs, but this was as I was transitioning out mentally from where I was. And those songs actually never came out. So I'll probably throw those in a folder, because, you know, I never put enough of them together to have a tape. But there was one, oh my God, there's one song that I made called Zombie. Let me talk to you for a second. Look, I pray for the mind if I was yours. It's different to me as the cities that I find on tour. Build your heart and I'll find the door. You give me reasons to say silly shit like what's mine is yours. It kept me motivated to believe that, like, all right, cool, you could still make music. Listen to this song. And then I had another song work out that I thought was amazing. Let me do it again though. Wait, I'm not finished. I appreciate you. All right. Listen, I'm gonna do this for Nelson Mandela. Rest in peace. Look, fear no man but God. I fear no beast but God. Zilla, in the streets I'm part killer, but that's camo. For the niggas ammo driven like they're hunter. Part in my ambition. Hail Mary, but they knock that pass down like tradition. Sincerely, clearly I'm different. When the touch is pure, I pour it. Call me monster or a synonym. In other words, I'm the Saurus. Put Maybach miles in a Ford Taurus, drive a regular. You can have a crown, but I want everything else, like etc. It's a chess game, how I set it up. Use your left brain, think logically. It takes a village to raise your child, but see, I was like a child prodigy. Psychology major before college. Before games, that's 16 quarters, that's $4. Like the reasons for all the killing. But I didn't complete any projects in that space. And then I quit the job that I had. I got married. I traveled the world, legitimately traveled the world. And I was in London, and I had a few songs, but I was sitting there in London and I thought to myself, all right, you got to complete this tape. It wasn't going to be a long tape. I knew it was going to be an EP. I knew it was going to be under 30 minutes. This is in 2017. And I said, all right, I'm going to put out this short tape of really lyrically impressive songs, but also smoother approach. Because, you know, you mature and I used to rap really aggressively, but I also probably was aggressive because that's the way I thought I had to react to the world. But then you get older and you become refined and the edges smooth out, and I released The Cup Runneth Over. One of my more impressive lyrical efforts. It was like the tape that defined whether or not I was going to keep music in my soul, as far as me personally making it. You ever at the park or at the gym and you're playing that game that you're like, well, depending on how this game feels, like this might be the last one. I had never been in that mind state to make music, to know how the music would come across. Like I was free. I wasn't working for somebody else. I was working for me. I had my time. But at the same time, I now had this anxiety that comes with knowing that there's no guarantees. All the money I made, I had to go out and make myself. I had to make connections. I had to follow up and chase down invoices, and I had to create business and follow leads and follow up, and it's different. Then it was difficult becoming the digital entrepreneur that I am now, because there was no one to teach me how to do it. I learned on the go, but everything I implemented, I pulled from just every lesson I learned in my life. Everything that I learned in every year of my life from every person who's ever told me something informed how I moved then and how I move now. And The Cup Runneth Over speaks to that. The Cup Runneth Over is me sipping cognac, because I'm a big fan of brown liquor. And it's an advanced tape. I feel like people listen to it. I got comfortable being polarizing with that tape. My shit's not for everybody, and that's fine, because if it's for you, it's super for you, because it's not for everybody. It's not middle of the road music. In that era, to see people stream my music was just like, wow. And then people from around the world had access to it. So you're looking at people who don't know who you are from anywhere listening to your music. But then you also realize, like, even still, what does it mean? You put out a tape and people listen to it, and then that's it. Because all the energy you had, you put into making it so they could have it to listen to. And so when it comes time to market it, you just like, I'm done. I took this Jackson Pollock piece, but it's not like the rest of Jackson Pollock's pieces. And that's why I used it. The imagery makes sense, but the picture itself I liked, because it was like, you know who Jackson Pollock is and you know him for the drip paintings. So when you see a piece of his work that isn't done in that drip style that he's known for, you don't know to identify it with him. And that's how I felt about my genius, is that if the genius is not readily identifiable, does it exist? Is it something that they'll pick up on? Will they give you credit for it if they can't recognize it? I'm super pleased with how it came out. I mean, every song on The Cup Runneth Over is worthy of repeat. And it was made so that people can listen to it twice. I said to myself that this is not going to be some long drawn out offering of music where maybe you get through it, maybe you don't. I was in airports a lot, and that's how I gauged, like, how long of a tape is this? Because you could, get to the airport, listen to the whole thing twice, from dropping your bags off at bag check to getting on the plane, and you haven't even taken off yet. And I love being there for that. And then you get to the 11:11 tape, not right away, and that was probably a bad transition. It was confirmed for me with The Cup Runneth Over that I have no desire to like yell and scream about my music. I'm gonna make sure people know it exists, but I spend so much time and energy making it, perfecting it, mixing it, recording it, writing it, that once it's out there in the universe, I kind of just want to let it catch the wave that it's gonna catch. And if it's 1 million people that's going to listen to it and download it and celebrate it, then cool. And if it's not, then that's also cool too, because it doesn't change how I feel about having had made it. Because there's nobody that listens to The Cup Runneth Over that doesn't
just got 100
get it.
miles left to go, shouldn't take us too long. We're landing in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes at 4:15 local time. The latest weather as well. At the moment, fairly overcast, light winds as well. Temperature on the ground at 5 degrees.
Yeah, look, nobody want me to win like I do, but I'm my own rival. I'm in my way when I don't try to. Even when I can kick it, fuck up my Ryu. Self-educated, I could've went to NYU. Could've been a builder of body, building my muscle. Instead I'm filled with this hustle and this trust issue. Could've took the bus with you, fucked with you. Raised by a hustler, not a Huxtable. Encrusted jewels, Gucci bands, Louis V. Presidential VIP instead of books. Same looks the crooks had. I had guns and book bags. I could've been a Cody, I didn't OD. I could've been a name for the OE, but I was too low key. The OG told me stay in school. I was 15, 03. I wasn't built for it, he knew it. I'm less a Ford or Buick, more a Porsche, trying to figure my portion. A firstborn, I really could have been an abortion, another lost. And you don't learn if it don't hurt. All I know is the
But I'm not here to force people to like absorb my creative output. If they get to it, they do. If they don't, then like I'm still fine. That takes us into the 11:11 tape, which you'll probably have favorite songs from other things, but as a whole piece of music, the 11:11 tape is the culmination of all my maturation as a musical creative. Now, mind you, all my time is not spent on music. When I'm in music mode, I'm in music mode heavy, right? My wife tells me I get a little crazy, or I get focused and obsessed, where I need to be listening to beats all the time to find the right one, because I didn't write those lyrics. I mean, they're my lyrics, but I didn't write them down. It was more like listening to the beat and then finding what I want to say and then saying it and then saying it again and then saying it until it felt right. And then when it was right and it was done. I think there's already other videos where I'm speaking about the 1111 tape, so I don't really need to kind of go too crazy. The 1111 tape makes sense if you find time to listen to everything else I've made, which is why I made this video, because I respect and I honor everything I've created. I'm so grateful to have had spent that time in the past creating it, that I could spend time in the present listening to it. And that's the point. I'm just so grateful. This is me being grateful for that. And if this motivates you to go click the links below, go to where I have the music at and listen to it, then cool. If it doesn't, that's also cool. Either way, we're still friends, because here you are at this point in the video. The 1111 Tape Waves project is completely representative of my mind state currently. I think if you're watching this video and you're at this point in the video, or maybe you watch some of the other videos, then I think it's obvious how I think. So I'll say this in closing, which I'll probably also put at the beginning, because this will be a long video. And so for people who maybe can't seem to find their way to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing, I'll say this. I've made over 100 songs. I've made over 6 hours of music. I've been recording music for, I don't know, 15 years. And I love every single song I've ever done. I've written, recorded, and mixed every song I've ever done. Every cover outside of the very first one for Black Verses, I made myself. Titles and all this other shit is motivated by the universe. And I'm going to make sure that this music is somewhere for you to listen to, because I'm just so grateful that it exists. So to sum up this video, I'm so happy that I spent time in my past making music so that I can spend time in my present listening to it. And I'm going to spend some time listening to it. You know what's crazy?